Welcome back to Religion is Creationism in a Hurry. And this is Zach. I'm reviewing a Jonas today, a Jonas vanderplanitz School Life. This is video number 5 on the whole collection of School Life videos. This is video number 5. This is about eating raw milk, raw fish, raw meat, raw eggs, and raw butter, and raw cream, and high meat, and juicing vegetables, not eating mostly. So I guess if you had to put it into an anti-vaxxer sort of thing, like I guess what he's anti is all the raw vegetables in their raw form, and all their like eating vegetables to maintain a natural planet, because in his view, since plants are cultured and cultivated, 95 or 90% of them are cultivated and unnatural, based on 90% of the planet having natural plants, and humans agriculturally engineered these plants. So he's going to be basically completely what's the word for he's going to be eccentric, yeah. So so everyone's gonna be like coming at it from every angle they can think of to debunk this guy's theory of diet, which is saying if all else fails, start at way below what you consider healthy, what you consider health, generic health. You got to go way under that, and then way under that again, like 2 steps under, and you start at like, what do bacteria like? Other bacteria. So bacteria in and of itself is not unhealthy. So that's kind of where he's getting his branch of metaphysics from. So as we continue, I guess if you kind of start from a dumbed up position thinking, and you kind of let go of some of that metaphysics and stuff, you get rid of some of the bubblegum ideas about like health, like, oh, it's about like having the ability to like to like eat something that's pleasant to the senses. Like we know a lot of fads and stuff depend on the senses, eyesight. When we look at foods that are colorful, we tend to think they're healthier. When we taste something salty, we tend to think it comes from something healthy. When we taste something sweet, we tend to think that was filled with, right? You're thinking like, oh, that's going to be good for my body. It's filled with some excuse, we make up for the sensation to overcome like our egos. And so but you don't want to be so grounded to where you're not willing to be lifted by some miracle, in case like you run into someone who says, oh, I've got, cooked this or that. I mean, it's not going to kill you to eat a little bit of cooked something, but you don't want to be too airy and to where you just get lifted by every single fad, and every single diet just takes you off into Neverland. You know what I mean? So you want to have a grounding in which the grounding lives long enough, or you grow long enough to where you have changed your position from ignorant to a little bit less ignorant. But you can't be like, you can't go from here to there, like way up higher. You have to have some kind of, it has to have some sort of integrity in your existence as you've been living it, or you know what I mean. That's the best way to grow, at least from my metaphysics. And so that's that. And not to mention, if your metaphysics starts out with everything you've been taught is true, well, you're way up in the clouds. You need to just be like, it's fine to be up in the clouds, but you have to be in the clouds. If you're going to be in the clouds, you have to be in the clouds. You can't just be like, oh, I'm so smart, I got this and that, you know what I mean? So I'm so down to earth. I know I've seen this before, you know what I mean? You can't relate to people if you're up in the clouds, so you have to be able to have your integrity to say, okay, I've been up in the clouds and I haven't really gotten anywhere because I haven't grown. I've been stuck as a cloud for so long that I'm soft and cushy, and I can get beat up very easily. So a little bit of grounding will get you back on track as far as not being pushed around and shoved around, with the rest of the clouds. So I guess that analogy requires a lot of thinking, because I guess some people think of diet as just something that you accidentally are culturally brought up to have to be forced to eat, and that's not true at all. It's actually your ignorance that allows you to continue to feed your parents' ego or your family's ego into continuing that diet or whatever. And meanwhile, you could have a local farm within 100 miles that you could have been ordering food for years and years, and you didn't even know it, and you could have been ordering here and there. The whole premise is this, too. For everything that you invest your money in, you can expect your future to represent economically a little piece of your physical being is represented by that economic investment. So for every time you do something that's unconscious and invest in it, it becomes a little bit a part of you year by year, or day by day, actually. You could even say second by second. So the quicker you get to see what you are doing that is economic based, the more you're likely to have an economic future. Most people, if you don't realize, lose their economic future. They don't ever get around to understanding the basics of economies and stuff. Buy what you prefer in life, and do not buy what you do not prefer. But if you're ignorant on what you prefer because you've never been exposed to what you've never been, in other words, you've been bought in to someone else's way of life. You didn't know that you had a separation of different ideas about, you got to start small. Like if you start really big, you'll have no way to say what I learned and what I didn't learn from that experience. So you got to start small. Like, pick apart what you like and what you don't like. Like, for sure, people can say that other people are terrible at dieting, but when it comes to actually objectively looking at your own diet, the economy and stuff is an amazing tool. Just think about what people like to buy at the store and stuff. It's usually not based on the food itself. It's completely based on how we're attracted to food and stuff. So let's get going. We've already wasted 9 minutes me explaining his premise. Wow. So I haven't even begun to explain his premise. It's so deep, which just goes to show you most people who are alive today had really, really good, strong roots, because how people survive in this society with the lowest amount of nutrition ever in history and the lowest amount of reproducing of having children ever in history. I mean, we have an epidemic of single moms, and it, the highest amount of showing off your life I've ever seen, and that could ever be possible. Because if we were to go any more in this direction of society's gone with online showing off your life, like Instagram and Facebook and stuff, if we were to go any further, it would be a movie. It would be like an Instagram Oblivion. It would be like playing like a video game about aliens. It would just be you would literally have to go to space. There's no more room for people on this planet. Like, if we were to keep going more and more into showing off what we have and stuff, because wow, like, and people don't even live anymore in places where our ancient ancestors used to live, like swamps, and live with animals and stuff, like in the swamps or in the near the coast and stuff, where people used to build like small pyramids and small grottos and stuff. It's just amazing. Like, we used to actually subsist off energy, it seems like the energy and flow of our bodies, and now it's like people have forgotten that in replacement of the TV and this artificial programming that tells us that if we just follow everyone else, the food is like so cheap nowadays and so artificial. You can tell it's like, anyway, let's just get started.
And most of the body is very deficient
There you go.
in fats. The butter gets to everything
In fats, he said.
except for the nervous system. I did mention that cream was the best thing for the brain and nervous system, to calm it, relax it, to soothe it. The best thing to restore myelin is fish fat. Not fish oil, fish fat. So again, a people want to sell fish oil, so they're going to stress the difference between the 3 and 6s, and all of the little chemistry that they're going to throw at you, because you don't know chemistry. And even if you do know chemistry, it sounds good. But in my experimentation with foods, fish oils never did what fish did. Just like in coconut,
I just
cream,
had fish today.
you have the water-soluble fats, you have the proteins, you have everything in that substance.
You do I did an experiment to have some anecdotal evidence of what fish can do. I did it like a year ago, and I only told like 2 people, but I did like a fish experiment. I ate nothing but fish for like 10 weeks or something, and you have like an insane amount of memory, like almost like fish create some kind of different memory or something. It's almost like they have a different memory track in their brain or something, because I remember eating fish and eating fish and eating fish. Now, here's the interesting part. I wasn't even eating the raw fish uncooked. I was eating cooked fish. So could you imagine how little I was getting of the raw omega-3 fats and oils and stuff that you need? And Adonis, this isn't the video for it, but he talks about how snake oil is actually very potent and gets rid of gout, I think, or something. No, not gout. It gets rid of some amazing things that causes pain in the body. So snake oil, there is something to snake oil, and he says only a teaspoon, tiny little spoon of it has magical properties. But the snake oil salesmen were selling like something else inside of with snake oil, so that's why it was a gimmick. It was a farce. It was fake. So
And
let's get
some
back
of
to
it,
what he's
a
saying.
small percentage is oil with the oil-soluble vitamins. In fish oils, you have all of that removed. And when the FDA gets finished with the regulations, fish oil is never pure. They always have to treat it with a kerosene based solvent or heat and both, well, it's both, that separates all the protein out of it so bacteria won't grow in the oil. And I dealt with another company that used to make it like they did back before pre-81. And fish oil, when you got it back then, stunk. It was cloudy. It had everything that the fish had in it. It was like juicing fish. And it was good substance. Then they outlawed it and had said no bacteria could grow in it. It had to be a purified product. And then it all became garbage. Anybody that tells you got a pure substance, they don't. So I got a company, finally talked them into making it, and they produced it, and guess what happened 6 months later? Is there any other way we can process? Because it only lasts 6 months and we want a product only.
This guy's only promoting food to change your life. Everything goes without saying. Like anything that is the human body is trying to do is probably in its best interest in a non-instant gratifying environment. So we're surrounded in an instant gratifying environment. So I say the better you are at finding out what your body does and for what reasons, the more likely you are to get out of your instant gratifying environment that is holding that back. Not all instances. I mean, if I shave my beard, I'm not gonna like grow a fungus in my stomach or some kind of crazy, or I'm not gonna go like jump off of a bridge or something. But I'm also probably not going to pick up certain things that come off of the breath in me. Like if I have bad breath, I'm probably not going to smell it as much without my hair and stuff. So there's something to say about learning from what your body wants to do in a non-instant gratifying environment.
Year round, because this cod we can only get, this fish we can only get one season a year, and it will only last 6 months. I said, well, that's okay, sell it high, sell it rotten. That's okay. Well, nobody's going to buy it, nobody's going to eat it. Yeah, they will, if they have any smarts about them. You educate them. Oh, no, we got to have a clean product. So you know what's going to happen? It's no longer going to be a fish oil that's any good, or a fish fluid that's any good. So again, it's all about money. It's all about what they can get, how much they can get, not about the product itself. So okay, let's take a look at the milk. When you have everything combined in it, it has certain properties that will nourish the whole body. When you have butter, it gets to every place in the body and lubricates it except the nervous system. When you have the cream, it soothes and coats and protects the nervous system. When you have the combination together, it will do a little of both. Now, for most people are so starved, their bodies are like an orphanage. Any of the kids that are closest to the food and bigger, they're going to get the food, and the little guys in the back are going to get much. So when you take all that food through the digestive tract, anything in this area is going to get the food and hold on to it first. And if they can eat several massive amounts of food and not let go of it, it's not going to get out to the rest of the body easily. And that's the way it is with fat especially. So you can eat all the butter you want, and all of a sudden you say, my skin's getting awfully dry. I'm eating all this fat, I'm gaining this weight, and my skin's so dry. That's because the fats are being consumed completely because they're so hungry inside that they're not getting out to the outer exterior, getting to the exterior. So the way I have developed a formula, or a friend of mine developed a formula called the lubrication or moisturizing formula. It has 2 names in all of my books. It has 2 names because I want it to be appealing to the women, which is the moisturizing formula, and appealing to the men, which is a lubrication. It's the most important formula in my whole system. And that's the combination of egg, butter, lemon juice, and a little bit of honey. And what that does is it helps break down the fats even before the bile gets to it. So it digests rapidly, so rapidly that all the organs and glands can't consume it all. So it gets out to every other part of the body, including the bones and the skin and the joints and the connective tissue that wouldn't normally get fed. So if you have that kind of a problem and you're not having the moisturizing lubrication formula, have it. And it's always best consumed after a meat meal or a heavy egg and dairy meal.
Or just eat meat with cream like all
Or
the
in
time.
combination with. Okay, we're going to talk about, we started on the pattern of eating. So we have the vegetable juice first thing in the morning. Okay, in order for the brain and nervous system to work properly, remember we talked about the...
I just want to preface this movie or this episode before we get into the meat of it with what he talks about. Too is we are not evolved creatures. We are designed creatures. We are supposed to be fully conscious, fully living, fully connected to the earth, conscious eaters. So our diet should never consist of grocery plants that have very little nutritional density. They should be consisting of like island style amounts of like island size vegetables. Like if you lived on like a remote island with like tons of good vegetables and stuff, you should be eating like tomatoes this freaking huge. You should be island hopping. You should be able to live how you want to live if you're fully conscious, if you're fully given your inalienable rights to do what you need to do when you need to do it. So that means no fear-based fear and no trying to channel things and trying to be spiritual. It just means being in connection with all of life. If you're doing that and you're eating how we're supposed to, how we've been given these conscious minds to use, then you're going to want to find out what foods are the most natural for our higher living style. And that would obviously be vegetables that are like ingrained with super nutrients, super dense, huge island or volcanic ash, amazing looking meals, amazing looking vegetables. I mean, fruits are okay, like he says, but our blood is so poisonous that I think the liver and the kidney and stuff, and this all gets somewhere in the matrix of your blood is signals getting crossed because your blood is like having to deal with sugary fruits when you eat fruits, and I think the spike in insulin and stuff is like I think it just becomes it makes your heart worse. It doesn't make your heart any better. So I would say stay away from fruits at all. If you really want to get down to it, what we need is a good replacement for chocolate. What people crave is sugary fat and stuff, and the way to get that is obviously milk and stuff like that. So if you want to cut out chocolate and replace it with a natural chocolate that has none of the powder or any of these things that make you feel like you're getting hives or something, those are what you want to eat. Not really, because it's less sugary. Fruit is just filled with sugar. One apple can have 40 grams of sugar and tons of fiber and just junk for you. And people will say, oh, it's so healthy. No. It breaks down your teeth. It makes you sick. There's nothing good about it. Yogurt, if you can get raw yogurt, that'd be the best. But regular yogurt from the grocery store, some juices from vegetables at the grocery store, and some alternative chocolates. You can have fun with that. trying to find an alternative chocolate is very hard to do because there's really only one, and I'm not going to give away the secret to the alternative, but because it's so easy, you just research for like 20 minutes and you should be able to find it. That's how we're supposed to live. We have bought into everyone else hurting each other because we're used to saying that life is tough, life is this or that. How is life tough? If you were born on another planet and you came to this planet, it would be tough because you aren't from here. You aren't biologically built to live it. Because by association, I mean by proximity. So like an alien would stand out. If you're born on this planet and you're around other people who also want to live, who also want to exist, and they don't seem to want to get along because they want less for everyone else and more for them, then the planet is not at fault. It's your fault that you don't get out of that situation, because there's really only two options for a situation where it's out of control. Get out of there, or get out of there and come back and fix it when you're better. So you can get out or get out and come back. That's the only two options I see. Because with a situation where it's out of control, obviously there's going to be a situation where people are allowing the out of controlness to be out of control, regardless of if they're in control, what they think of, or out of control. So the situation requires a outsider perspective, and if you don't ever get into an outsider perspective mentality, you are going to eventually turn into one of two things in that perspective. So we are supposed to be living how we basically, the media and Hollywood have projected it into our consciousness as fantasy, as something that is beyond this planet and stuff. And it's quite unusual because the fantasy always projects none of the stuff that it takes to get there, but it does project correctly. Like, you can be whatever you want to be, but that's the problem, is like people are so bought into the wrong things that lead to having to struggle to get to what you want to be. And that's the problem. They bought into the wrong things to make it a smooth, easy way to get to where they want to be.
AGEs, the advanced glycation end products. Well, if you eat a piece of fruit or a high carbohydrate juice, like a carrot juice, you're going to cause the brain and nervous system fluids to be sticky, your blood to be sticky. So, not a good thing to do. So you want to eat some kind of a protein meal. I always have meat. My brain works so well when I have meat. If I just have dairy and eggs, I'll be good. But if I want to be a genius, I have meat at that first meal. And I have the butter with it, or the lubrication formula for me, or I can have the moisturizing on the other side of it. So the moisturizing or lubrication formula with that meal.
Again, he's just projecting that that it takes meat in order to survive. It's just like it's argument. It's kind of like an argument for ignorance. I mean, it doesn't just make you a genius if you eat meat. You have to have an environment that promotes meat. If you live in an environment that doesn't promote meat, and you eat meat around other people and stuff, they're gonna think you're an a-hole, and they're not gonna think you're a genius, and you're gonna hate that you're even a genius, and you're gonna hide it. So it's all environment and how you get along and where you go. We are supposed to be high consciousness, immaterial thinkers. We're not supposed to be like materialistic surface thinkers.
And then if I want to make sure I've got lots of minerals for the day, I have the cheese and honey afterward, about 30 minutes after that. Now my brain is set for the day. However, you still have another 5 hours to go. If you eat a high carbohydrate in the first 7 hours that you're awake, you will make glycogen with the carbohydrate. If you don't eat a high carbohydrate, the body's going to make the glycogen from pyruvate, a protein sugar. Now, the carbohydrate we discussed, very high acrylamides. If you have pyruvate as your protein or sugar to make glycogen with the help of glucagon, you only have 7 to 8% advanced glycation end product, and we can handle 12% at a time. So that means you will not store not one molecule of advanced glycation end product. So the first 7 hours you're awake after a long sleep, do not eat high carbohydrate food. Juice or any form.
Pardon? Juice or any form?
Pardon?
You said juice or any?
Any form of high carbohydrate food. No fruit, no juice, like carrot juice or beet juice or anything like that. Unless it's just a small percentage of your juice, like 5-10% of your juice. You're not going to have much. Celery has a minus carbohydrate. You don't have enough carbohydrate to digest celery. So when you start with celery, you put a little bit of carrot with it and parsley, the high carbohydrate in that is going to be neutralized by the celery. So you can see how much thought and everything I put into all this. And it'll work. And it works 95, 98% of the time. Exactly like this. So then then you've got 2 to 3 hours. You drink milk in between, preferably kefir yogurt, in the form of kefir yogurt. You can add eggs in between all you want. Feel, you're getting a little sleepy or drowsy. Take an egg. Does everybody know how to eat an egg? Raw? You're so rocky. You break 5 eggs into a glass and you down it and you wipe your mouth like this. You don't wipe your mouth like that, it won't work. And that's how I eat it. You just down the 5 eggs. I do it. My throat's a little tight, like that glob of egg in my throat. It makes me want to kind of puke. So what I do is I do it the endogenous way. I take an egg. Hopefully it's got some fecal matter on it. And I'll explain that later. And I put a dent at one end, not a hole, a dent. And in this end I make a hole with the cutting teeth in front. Any herbivore, any vegetarian animal that has cutting teeth, does 90% of its mouth? No. Your vegetarian animals, your herbivores, all have all molars. So you're going to go like this. And first the white comes out in little amounts. And the white doesn't taste like anything. So it's pretty benign. It's cool texture. As long as it's not a glob in my throat. And then the last to come out is the yolk. Now what you have is a hermetically sealed, perfect food, protein, carbohydrate, and everything. And now the waste product is completely biodegradable, the packaging. Make sure I got all of it. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And then I don't have to clean a glass. Rocky has to clean a glass every time. I do not. So, you have eggs like that, your mind feels a little slow, you might be feeling a little sleepy. Grab an egg like that, or Rocky style and down it, and your mind will turn around in about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. And you'll be alert and focused again. If you eat a lot of foods at that time, you drink a lot of milk, you're going to get sleepy. Because you said it's like a baby drinking until it's full and says, oh, I can go to sleep again. So when you want to stay alert and focused and working and concentrating, you eat something that's a full meal in one. It has all your protein and fats, but not a lot of it. Frequently, but not a lot at one time, and you'll stay open and focused. Let me give you an example. Los Angeles Police Department was hassling a lot of these runaways on Venice Beach. And I went on Venice Beach almost daily to get people on this diet from 1988 all the way through 1995, trying to get as many people to do the diet as I could get to see its results, because I'd only worked with patients, let's say 300 altogether or 500 altogether in all of those years. I wanted to work with thousands of people to see the results of this diet. So I set up a table out there and talked people into going into the diet. We're talking about in a 5.5 year period, about 10,000 people, and talked to about 10,000 people, but I got about 3,200 to do the diet and come back with results, and they were exceptional. So while I was out there, I saw the police department hassling runaways. Now, these are runaways who've been sexually abused or abused in some manner. And they weren't, runaways, they were teenagers that were out there doing hair wraps, painting pictures, doing portraits, and the police were ticketing them and running them off. So where did they have to go? Into drug trade or prostitution. So I was on the police's pocket like, police's butt like hip pocket. And Jerry Rubin, famous activist, and I got some attorneys together. We got cards printed, and anytime we saw a policeman hassling one of these people, we go up and say, "This officer is depriving you of your civil rights. You have a total responsibility to be here, and if he cites you, you get in touch with this attorney. He will file suit on this man or this woman for citing you and for making your life miserable." So the police hated us, and I was the biggest offender because I would watch for them. So after 5.5 years, they got this guy to attack me. He kept moving away, he kept coming at me and hitting me, and we're talking in deadly places. So I picked up a stick and I beat him, but I beat him, only him coming at me. 7 witnesses, and they arrested me for assault and battery, because that's what they were setting us up to do. And they got all of us. They got Jingles, everybody knows the singing, roller skating Sikh. He was part of us too. So he got arrested, Jingles got arrested, Jerry Rubin got arrested, and I got arrested all in that week because they were going to put a stop to us. So they weren't prepared for me, so I sued them. And I played my own attorney because I know what attorneys do. So I put them through 5 years of hell in the legal system. And when I got them finally into court, in federal court, I'm the only layperson that's ever gotten this Los Angeles Police Department and the city into federal court. And I tried it myself. And I wrote legal documents 2 stacks this high. And I was carting them in every day into the hearing. And I was my own attorney. So I was on my feet all day long. I had 22 officers in there. And we're talking about lieutenants and captains and sergeants that were there. They let 4 of them off the hook right away, so I had 3 of them on trial and 22 for witnesses. And I proved without a doubt that they had arrested me and that they had set me up and conspired. So what happened, and during that time, that whole 22 days, you know how I survived? Because I had to prepare for questioning. Every officer, every question had to be understood and written. Because you don't go in there and think, You have to go in there with your plan of attack for each person that you were calling up as a witness. And you had to know what to ask them and what not to ask them. So I had to go through this every night and stand on my feet all day long to this. I was getting 1.5 hours sleep a day. And I got it 10 minutes at a time, even in the courtroom. And one time I said, I need a short recess, 10 minutes, I went to sleep right there. And the guy came up, woke up, and went right back to work. And they don't allow any kind of food in the courtroom. And I said, you have to let me have I have a motion here, a citing that says that I was diagnosed with diabetes. Of course, I wasn't diabetic anymore. But, I would have symptoms of diabetes like anybody with low blood sugar, but I didn't have my food. So I said that I have to have my food in the courtroom and eat during court. So I got it. So I'm there downing raw eggs like you just saw in the courtroom, drinking my milk and doing that. So that's what I got. I got an 1.5 hours sleep a day. And then when it was all over and, went to the jury, They switched a juror. A juror that had been working with the police department for 10 years. You don't see any record of her ever being in the jury. And all of a sudden this new juror is in there. And she convinced 3 of the jurors, came out, were waiting for me after the trial and said, this woman wouldn't let us do it. She said, you know, this wasn't, I said, you got a smoking gun there. You know, they said, but yeah. And I said, the stuff that she was telling you that I didn't have, they didn't give me, but yet the officer said that he had read it before he came. So they held that from the court. So that it was all set up. They knew I was never going to win. But I cost them millions of dollars and lots of time and sweat. And they left all of those teenagers alone during the whole 7 years, and then they started hassling them again. You know, but then I was on to milk and other stuff. So anyway, that's the situation. But you can stay focused and conscious with those eggs. And a half a cup of milk at a time. Egg, maybe 1 hour. Half a cup of milk another hour. If you want to stay focused, if you have to have physical energy, you're going to need more than that. You're going to have milkshakes, like a half a cup of milkshake at a time, if you're doing physical labor. But if it's mental, mainly the eggs will keep you physically and mentally focused. So let's say after this first protein meal, you have the vegetable juice, then 45 minutes, an hour later, you have the protein meal, eggs and milk or meat, and also butter. And then 2-3 hours later, you have I know that I'm swinging it around in there, you guys. You have a milkshake. This helps calm the body and deliver it some energy. If you have the problem like I had, where if you mixed eggs and milk and honey together, you get cramps, you're not going to be able to do that. You should probably suck your eggs first, my style or Rocky style, and then have some milk and cream afterwards and honey after that, maybe 5-10 minutes after you down the eggs. Remember, the eggs are going to go through very rapidly. So then 2 to 3 hours after that, you have another vegetable juice. All of a sudden now we've hit the time where you could eat some carbohydrate. But let's give it an hour or two anyway, just to make sure. So an hour or two after the second juice, then have your one and only fruit meal of the day, and always with the fat. Now, remember that fruit is always detoxifying. The body makes alcohols with it. So it will utilize fat as energy, and it will detoxify the system. So this is the time to do it. You don't want to do it early in the day because you don't want your day to be focused on detoxifying, nor making everything sticky and poorly functional. And you don't want to late in the day because you're not going to sleep well if you're detoxifying at night. So this is the high time to have a fruit. If you want to lower the amount of detoxification, you don't have ripe fruit, you have non-sweet fruit that's on the green side. But always have it with fat anyway. And the best fat for cleaning is coconut cream. Coconut cream is an incredible solvent. Before, 60 years ago, all of our soaps, body soaps, were 70 to 90% coconut. Everything, laundry soap, everything was made with coconut. Then when they discovered to make out all these acetates, soaps, out of chemical petroleum products and kerosene, they found that it was cheaper than to grow these coconuts, to process and harvest and process them, and then decontaminate them and deal with all the waste products. They could just make a chemical soap. And that's when all of the natural products went out the door for soaps. And they are great soap too. Coconut cream is what I use as my body soap. That's the coconut cream that I don't eat in time, and it becomes fermented. So I use it to brush my teeth with, and I use it to wash my body with, and hair and everything. And it's a wonderful soap. But the coconut cream internally will do the same thing. It's the best cleanser. So have, 3 to 6 tablespoons. If you're a big person, you have 8 tablespoons, of coconut cream at a time. But always have a natural fat with it. I mean an animal fat with it. Either cream or butter, or a little bit of cream and butter with the coconut. Both of them with the coconut. Because the coconut is more detoxifying, the butter and the cream are protective. So if you've got the coconut cream pulling out a lot of heavy metals, and other toxicity, you want that the animal fats there to protect your system from damage. So always have a little bit of the animal fats with the coconut cream when you have the fruit. And there are lots of ideas in the recipe book. These eating systems that I'm telling you right now are on page 40 and 41 of the recipe book. But I'm going through it to explain why it is that way, which I don't do in the book, as well as some people. Some people say that they didn't understand it because it's very concise and it doesn't go into much explanation. So I'm giving you the explanation now of why I set that schedule up and why it works. Okay, so we go from the fruit meal, and you can have different fruits. If you've got a problem, you read in the We Want to Live in the remedy section, you go through all of that and you say, I have that symptom, I've had that symptom, I've had that symptom, and these reoccur once in a while. And any symptom you've ever had is going to recur on you, I guarantee you, because you have never eaten properly to heal properly. So that area is always going to be revisited, the detoxification and the healing. So anything that you've ever gone through, you go and highlight that. This is the remedy section of my book, so you know what fruits and what other foods to eat. So you can go to it right away. If you want an excellent way to do it, you go to wewanttolive.com. The TO is a numeral 2, wewanttolive.com, and you can get the PDF version from the Adobe version. You can download it and search it. So you can have it like that. You don't even have to highlight it. You know right where to go. Just put that word in, you'll find it instantly. And it's costs just as much as the book does, hard copy, but it's a lot more. If you're a computer person and don't have a lot of time, then that's an excellent thing to get, and it's well worth the $30. And you don't have to pay shipping on it. And no taxes, I don't think. If you're in California, you might. It's not my website. I just license somebody to be able to distribute all of my information. It was an agreement, because I don't have time to do it. And everybody is screaming at me, where can we get more of your information? Where can we get more of your information? So you can't. Now you can. Lots of stuff that is not published is on that site. A lot of stuff. Articles that I've written that were published in obscure places and other magazines, LA Times, all kinds of places. Everything's on there that I allow to be out yet. So, and my publisher allows. So that's a lot. So you go there and you find out you know what foods you need to eat. So let's say you're having difficulties with your spine, and you know that papaya is helpful for that. So you have papaya for a couple of days a week. Don't have it repeatedly because it will create even more spinal detoxification. You could have it every other day for the weeks that you're dealing with your back. And if you're dealing with digestive problems, constipation.
Wow, that's a big one. I didn't even know that. Papaya. Everyone get that spinal fluid moving. I guess papaya does something to your spinal fluid and your nervous system near your spine. Wow.
Something like that. Then you could have pineapple with the coconut cream, butter, and dairy cream, and a little honey if you want. And you take those fats, you can whip them into a whipped cream, and have it with a whole or chunks of fruit, or you can blend it all together. It's like if you're trying to get rid of heavy metals, you could use dark berries, blueberries, blackberries, or boysenberries with those creams, those fats, and if you blend it together, it'll be like a parfait, like a hard gelatin. It's pretty good. So you can do it in many different ways to make it more appetizing, even though you may be eating the same thing. So that's how you work that one.
I'm noticing it's interesting, raw butter, it's just not as provided as you would think for how many benefits it has, even from the Amish and the Mennonites, like in Iowa and Pennsylvania and Nebraska, Ohio, Utah.
Then the next, you wait 2 to 3 hours to have another vegetable juice. Then an hour and a half, 2 hours later, your second and last meat meal or another large protein meal with a lot of eggs at one time and some dairy in that time if you're not a meat eater. Then again, have your lubrication formula or some butter with that meal, or butter and honey if you're having eggs and milk. And again, usually when you have a milkshake at that late in the day, you're not going to digest as well and as quickly. So it might be better to down the eggs if you have digestive problems, and then drink the milk and cream afterwards with a little butter and honey, and then the cheese and the honey after that, about 30 minutes after that. And then before you go to bed, you can have milk anytime during the day, preferably room temperature or cold kefir yogurt if you want, or room temperature kefir yogurt, or even warm milk. You can warm it every time if you like. You can treat yourself like a baby. If you're a person who's hyperactive and irritable all the time, warm milk will relax you all the time. It's a good thing. So before you go to bed, you make sure you want to relax, then have some milk before you go to sleep.
But he also says, oh no, never mind. I was thinking of when he said irritability relating to low body fat percentage. He's talking about you can't go to bed, so it's like insomnia and hyperactivity disorders and stuff.
More milk and some honey, a little extra cream with it, and during the night, if you've had a big moisturizing or lubrication formula, and you've had a third with each of your protein meals, then during the night you'd have the remaining third with half a cup of milk, just to make sure you always stay as lubricated as possible, so your skin is always in the best shape that it can be. And the best facial soap is fermented. The best shaving cream is fermented coconut cream. It gets kind of slimy and it's just so nice. I never cut myself with that. I used to shave with eggs. I put egg on my face and shave with eggs. Then when I discovered the fermented coconut cream, it's so easy to shave, never any cut. Never any cut. I mean, for me to say that's amazing, because I was always cutting myself when I was around in here with these little scars that I had from my brother beating me up. Boom, boom, and little bumps came about there with the blisters and the cuts, stuff like that. I was always cutting and I was always bleeding. But for some reason the coconut cream, fermented slimy coconut cream, works excellently as a shaving cream. So there you have it. Now, we're going to go for the long-awaited stuff, bacteria, parasites, and all of that stuff. Now, everybody's afraid of bacteria and parasites and virus and fungus and stuff like that. But those are your janitors. I mentioned it earlier just to give you an idea that they're not your enemy. They are your friends. In my experiments with animals who had parasites got well quicker than those who did not have parasites. I also investigated the myth that raw meat created parasites, would give people parasites. We took 14 animals, all from the age of 12 to the age of 16, and these were so-called at-risk types of creatures because they were in old age, and all of them weak and feeble, and fed them various different types of parasite-infested meats. Calf's brain that was infested with flukes, chicken tripe that was infested with pinworms, and liver worms, and calf's liver. We fed that to all these animals. Not one of them got a parasite. And they all did very well and got healthier. The animals that we put in an ad for and got that already were infested with parasites, we took them and fed them raw foods, and they all got better. And their parasites continued and then went away within about 6 months. The latest was 9 months on one of them. And we followed them to their death, and we performed autopsies on them. Their innards were brilliant, like they were young. So wherever they had, whether they had the liver parasites or they had the brain flukes or wherever, when they were fed the raw meats, the raw dairy, and a little honey, they had immaculate healing. The animals that we gave, we took some of them and we fed them pharmaceutical grade and anti-wormer, dewormers, and homeopathic dewormers. And those animals, when we got rid of the parasites, fed them the same raw diet, they didn't fare as well. The ones that were given the pharmaceutical dewormers, still their organs, they got better and healthier on the raw diet. But when we performed autopsies on them, their glands where they had the parasites and we had poisoned them with the pharmaceutical dewormers were dark and brown, so they never healed properly. So those that we allowed the parasites to do their work and eat the raw diet.
By the way, dogs have a similar digestion system to humans. So if you have dogs, their diet can actually be subsumed by your diet. So in other words, don't be afraid to just I call it upgrade. Like, you got to think of your personal private life as like a video game, and why not upgrade every single tiny thing too? If like it's like putting a badass car in your garage and then never driving it. Like, you already have the car. You have to use it. Like same with a dog. You already have the dog. You're going to spend money on it anyways, so you might as well just feed it its proper nutrition, have it not have any symptoms of its improper nutrition, which then you have to go to a vet to get more improper nutrition that counteracts the improper nutrition. See what I mean? Like, you are doing the exact opposite in a environment that is telling you to do what you feel like you should do, but your senses tell you you're doing something wrong, because your senses will be like, well, let me cover up how I feel with something else. But you're not going to the root of what's making you feel bad. When you do something wrong, you're covering it up with like other things to make you feel better about what you did bad. So why not just prefer to do what? See, it's not necessarily. It's an emotional intelligence thing that a lot of people have not invested in, because they don't know that there's a underlying issue with their physical character, their physical being. And if you're not emotionally invested in the well-being of others, you don't get enough evidence to pick up that you're not emotionally that influential in other people's lives as you actually are. And so you sort of slowly buy into the wrong instant ways to feed other people's fear that you see in yourself. If you, like I said, if you buy into that that what other people do must be better than you or something, you know what I mean? If you lack a emotional skill or something, you have to do it in order of something that you believe is something that makes you have the character to stop doing what you think other people are harming you in you having to achieve, or you having to align with, that other people are harming you or harming your family or harming your animals. So you gotta stop like producing the same results because you're consuming the same results other people think are are too afraid to think are unnatural. So you got to stop consuming what you see is unnatural. You got to start producing what you see is natural. And that's the whole economic bias that most people have been taught to do without, like, do something else instead of their natural thinking.
Got it. Much healthier and stronger. So parasites are your friend. Bacteria are your friend. They eat degenerative tissue. Now let's say you're poisoned. You've taken antibiotics for everything all these years. You've taken penicillin. You've gotten injections. And you don't have any bacteria left in your life. You're going to have a lot of problems. And the only way your body's going to be able to clean is with virus. Viruses are not alive. Taking antibiotics for a virus is the stupidest thing in the world. It was known 30 years ago. Viruses are not alive. They're protein bodies that act like solvents. They dissolve tissue. They're not alive. Do not give antibiotics for viruses. And what do they do today? You have a virus, they'll give you an antibiotic. It's an absurd case. And they're always talking about, you have all these writers talking about live virus. It's a misnomer. There's no live virus. They have no respiratory system. They have no nucleus. It's like calling Tide soap alive. It's ridiculous. And that's what viruses are. They are soaps. They are solvents that go in and dissolve tissue. And your body has over 320,000 varieties of virus. Each element of your tissue, intracellular tissue, has a different type of virus that's specific to dissolve that tissue when it's in trouble, when it needs to be dissolved and rid of. Just think, if one virus dissolved everything, then you would have complete dissolution and death. But the body is finite and intelligent, even though you poisoned it to death with antibiotics and pollution. It makes finite viruses that specify a particular dissolution of tissue. And the pharmaceutical industry will say, and the doctors who are their sales pitches say, well, look, it dissolves in this tissue, in this cell. It breaks apart this part of the cell. Yeah, so? But they get you thinking it's the end and all, that your cell is going to completely die because of it. It doesn't happen unless that cell is completely contaminated and destroyed. And the death of one cell in your body isn't going to kill you. So the medical profession and the pharmaceutical communities frighten you to death with all these stories. How can you get virus to be a contagion when it's not alive? You can put a virus in a petri dish that's fertile, that cells can grow in it, and not one more virus will appear in that petri dish under cellular conditions, even for a week. Not one more will appear. You put live cells in there and all of a sudden they start multiplying. But they don't multiply. Cells make virus. Just like we produce soap. You calling virus contagious is like saying Tide soap is contagious because it's in every home. Humans have made it as a soap to clean their laundry. Cells make virus to clean parts of themselves because they're too toxic to use bacteria, fungus, or parasites to clean them out because we're too polluted. They're poisoned. They can't live, they can't survive eating toxic waste. It's like I contaminate, let's say I eject an apple, or I spread a field with, let's say, arsenic. Apples grow from this field of arsenic. You've got a high content of arsenic in this apple, and I give it to you to eat. What's going to happen to you? You're going to die. Well, that's what happens with a bacteria and a parasite and a fungus when it goes to eat a cell that's contaminated. They die. So they don't multiply. So then all we have left is virus. The body has to produce virus to clean itself. But viruses are like soaps. What do you have to do with soaps? You dilute them in the H2O. And what happens there? When a parasite or a bacteria or a fungus eats something, it takes the amount of food that it that it consumes, and it dwindles it down to this tiny little waste product. Parasites can eat 100 times their weight in 24 hours and discard 1% of it, 1 to 2, 3, even 5% depending upon the parasite. That means it's like you eating 100 pounds of food in a day and having a 1-pound turd in the morning. Pretty efficient. I like that. I like that. Because that parasite has made sure that I have to discard a very small amount. Now bacteria, depending upon the bacteria, can eat about half of that in 24 hours. But still, its waste product is a small amount. What happens? We eat 14 pounds of food in a day. A lot of people eat that much. And they have a 1-pound turd the next day. That's not a good ratio. I'll take the parasite and the bacteria any day as my assistants. Fungus is the same way. It takes something and reduces it in stature. When your body uses virus, it dilutes and spreads it all throughout the system. That's why viral meningitis is a problem with coma. Because when you have a viral meningitis, which means the coating around the brain or the nervous system is infected, it's got pollution in it, there's nerve damage in there, and the body needs to dissolve it and clean it out. Anytime you have an infection, it means the cleaning, janitoring going on, you have more nutrients flowing to the area, and that's what swelling is. You always want swelling, you never want to stop swelling. People put ice packs on things, and what do? They prevent the circulation. All of those mini nutrients are being moved into that area to clean out and feed the area and heal it. They put ice packs on it, what happens? It clots. They don't heal properly. So you've got an athlete, he has a knee injury. They want to keep him in the ball game, so they put ice packs on it, lower the swelling, wrap it with a ace bandage, give him an injection of cortisone, and send him out in the field. What happens in 5 years is his knee's gone, his knee's blown. 4, 5, 6 operations and surgeries, and finally when he's an old man, the only thing he can do, and an old man for an athlete is 45, 47 years old, he's got a knee transplant. Which means he's got a piece of plastic put in as a knee. That's not the way you handle it. Never freeze a swollen area. You put a hot water bottle next to it, you put heat there to increase circulation. You'll get well faster. Always put heat. Never a heating pad because you have an EMF field. Hot water bottle. EMF fields destroy the molecular structure of cells. So always, I don't care if you put hot water in a glass and wrap it with a towel. That can be your hot water bottle. The best is a rubber one if you want it to last a long time, or a true rubber hot water bottle, so it doesn't outgas plastic. So when you have all this viral contamination, your body has to get rid of all that fluid. And if you've got that swelling in the meningi, the extreme swelling from the virus, you've got possibility of damaging and rupturing, the consciousness center, so you go into a coma, or you have an aneurysm, or you have a broken blood vessel in the brain. You ever have that kind of situation where you have a headache and it's getting strong? You can lay down on your back, put 2 hot water bottles on either side of your head. You put a towel over the hot water bottles on your head so you're tenting the heat into your head. And what will happen is all of the sinew, the tendons that connect these fissures in your brain will relax and allow the skull to expand. Headaches are when the brain expands and the skull doesn't. And it puts pressure in the meningi. So you want to relax so the skull can expand with the brain, then there's 80% of your headache gone. Then with the headache formulas in the book, you can get rid of the rest of it. That's, lemon and honey and sparkling waters and some cream. There are different headache formulas in the remedy section of We Want to Live. So that's how you handle it. So, what would you rather have? A viral infection or a parasite? Or bacteria? Or a fungus? I'll take any of them over a virus. And I want all of them because I want to be clean. I don't want to stop any of them. I wouldn't be well today if I stopped them. I would be dead today if I stopped them. I've had spinal meningitis 4 times in my life because of the damage they did to my spine. creating bone cancer and solidifying my spine with that radiation. I was in miserable pain. I rarely have pain in my back anymore. My back is almost completely renewed. Just one little vertebrae right here still isn't intact yet, but all the others are. And I've got 14 years to go to reach my 4 years, and I'm already satisfied. It works. Don't stop those detoxifications. If you need to stop them because you've got to function and you've got to feed your babies or take care of them and work, the way to do it is lime juice, not lemon juice. Lemon is a bacterial incider. It helps dissolve anything. It helps, that's why people marinate in lemon juice, because it helps break down, it helps fermentation, it helps bacterial growth. Lime juice inhibits it. So if you put, let's say, 3 to 5 tablespoons, or even 6 if you're a bigger person, 6 tablespoons of lime juice with about 2 ounces of honey, which is about 4 tablespoons of honey, 4 to 6 tablespoons of honey, about 4 tablespoons of coconut cream, and about 1 tablespoon of dairy cream. You blend that all together and mix it with about 3 to 4 ounces of Gerolsteiner or Perrier, or one of those naturally sparkling waters, and you drink that, a little of that, like 2 ounces of it or 3 ounces of it every 3 to 4 hours. It'll be your natural antibiotic, and it will slow it down. Now, if you have too much lime, it'll do just like an antibiotic. It will destroy all of your bacteria, intestinal everywhere. But at least it won't have the side effects of an antibiotic and the long-term damage. It'll just ruin your digestion for 3 to 6 weeks. And then you have to live on sucking eggs. So if you want to suck eggs for a few weeks, only, and have some milk at night, then have all the lime juice you want and stop your detoxification. Okay? So let the body go through its natural processes. It is very intelligent. I wouldn't be walking today. So remember, I was a worm in constant pain. Severe, chronic, intense, excruciating pain. 24 hours a day. Even when I was unconscious and asleep, I felt pain. Until I learned the bathtub. Then I had some respite. When I learned to sleep in a bathtub, it was like discovering the world was round. Only more efficient, more helpful. So don't try to stop your detoxifications. Try to endure them until they finish. And there are many remedies in the book to help you get through any kind of detoxification. Okay, we're at the question and answer period. Any questions? And who's going to give the answer? Yes.
You mentioned the problems with your teeth and getting cavities. Now, I happen to be one of those people who ended up with having dental work, at which point I ended up with nothing but cavities. And of course it has amalgam, which is mercury. Now, from all I've been able to research, there are very few dentists that can take your
Mercury out of the system, amalgams.
yeah. You have a big chance of really getting a flood of poisoning.
Correct.
Now, do you have anything in your books about slowly detoxifying that mercury out of your system?
Yes, I do. And we're talking about juices, eating cilantro juice as part of your vegetable juice. That helps to get out slowly. Also, I talk about the blueberries, blackberries, and boysenberries with the coconut cream. They're both in the recipe book because those remedies came later.
Is the recipe book also downloadable online?
Yes, it is.
Because I like the ability to search.
It's easier that way. Okay, any other questions? Yes. Oh, let me say something about that. A lot of people want to rush to get the mercury out of their teeth. Don't do it. I say on if you're in ill health, wait 2.5 years till you've been on this kind of diet, or all high, animal food, protein, milk, egg, meat, even meat diet, until you've strengthened yourself before you have that mercury removed. Because even if you have a good dentist that knows how to put the dam in there and prevent you from, preventing from going into your mouth and down your throat. You're going to, and you got to learn how to breathe also, because it's going to go right into your nose, some of that dust. And that's a very dangerous dust. It's mercury.